All right, so this is a different way to route to the mixer. This is from FL Studio.
So there are multiple ways to route a channel into the mixer in FL Studio, but here is one you may not have heard of. First, open the channel rack. Left click and hold this number box next to the channel you want to route.
So before I get into it a little bit more, I never knew this. I never knew this way of doing it. Like what I always did was just click on it and then click the track button inside the sampler. So this is like 100% news to me. And I think that's why they shared it. I don't know if it's a new feature or not, but.
Holding type a mixer track number with your keyboard. The channel is now routed to that track. An easy way to send something into an existing track you already know the number of. If your keyboard is sending MIDI input and you hear sounds, you can switch off the typing keyboard to piano option.
Huge.
And that is all for this one. Happy music making.
Nice.
That was news to me, bro.
Yeah,
because
you can just type it in.
Yeah, the thing I don't know and they don't say, and I haven't tried it for myself yet, I got to try it because I don't know if it names the track. You know, like I love going into the sampler and hitting the button. Most people don't even know that that's a button because it just says track right there and it doesn't really look like a button.
Yeah.
So there's two ways that you can go into and have it be named automatically. There's that way, and if you're individually adding sounds to the mixer, as if like you go to the mixer, you go to the sampler of the sound and you hit the track button right here. And then it goes into the mixer and it names it. So 808 kick, it automatically names it. The other way you could do it is if you highlight all of the stuff in the channel rack, and then you go to the mixer, you go to the next open spot, and then you hit Shift Control and L. And then everything that's highlighted in there will name inside the mixer as well, or go to the mixer and it'll name it automatically. That way, I'm not really sure if it names it. It doesn't seem like it names it automatically though.
It might not. That might work for, so that I love that you said that shortcut with the shift.
Yeah.
I use that all the time. And then also if you leave the shift out, it sends whatever's highlighted to the same channel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So wait, so if you hold shift, it does everything in individual channels.
It fills them up. Yeah.
And then if you only hold control, it sends
L,
everything
sends
into
them all
one?
to one. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you had like 3 guitars that you all wanted, mixed the same way, and they're just like panned differently on the mixer or channel rack, then yeah, the command or whatever L will send it all to one.
I did not know
and
that.
What might work about that is like you can just label that as guitar, and then if you add a guitar in that you want to just send, the same EQ and same treatment,
Control L 'em.
and then you can also just type that one in, that new input into the the channel.
That's fire.
So then if guitar, boom, send it, type in channel 6 or whatever.
That's crazy. I keep saying it. I feel like I say it every episode, but there's so many ways to do the same thing.
Yeah,
in FL.
For sure.
I don't think there's a DAW that has that many ways to do the same thing. And people might say it's like too much. Why is there so many ways to do the same thing? I don't even know necessarily if FL was thinking of that in the past and be like, we should make multiple ways to do the same thing in the DAW. I think it just kind of happened naturally like that. And what ends up happening is everybody has their own way of doing something. They figure out their own way to add to their workflow of doing something.
Yeah.
Some sort of shortcut.
And like depending on what you got, like if your mouse dies in the middle of a session and you got to go off trackpad, that sucks. But you also have a ton of hotkeys and shortcuts that if you're hip to them, then you know exactly how you can move around and not have to fucking sit here with the tiny trackpad and all that,
There was some clips that you threw in there.
This one that the kid made on the compression, I thought was interesting. In a previous episode, we were talking about how compression as like a technique kind of comes later for a lot of people. He almost like breaks it down in the way that you would talk about like a video game.
Let's do it.
I want you to think about your compressor as like your audio bodyguard. So in this case, the attack knob on your compressor is going to be how fast the bodyguard operates. If you have too slow of an attack, your bodyguard might not catch the problem in time. Your release is the opposite. It's like the cooldown of your bodyguard. If your cooldown's too slow, your bodyguard's gonna miss the next problem. But if it's too fast, it's gonna leave the problem it's working on too quickly. This is where it gets a little bit more complex, but just hang in there. The ratio is like the strength of your bodyguard. The higher your ratio is, the stronger your compressor works. The threshold is how sensitive your bodyguard is. A really low threshold is almost like super hyper alert and active. A higher threshold is more of a chill and laid back bodyguard. All right, now the big question is, how does this apply in the context of mixing the vocals? So I know my threshold's at 0, which means it's not doing anything. And I'm going to play the isolated vocal out just to hear how it sounds.
I don't really care if you cry.
When you look at the meter here, and this is what I'm watching, is there's certain parts that are super loud and other parts that are way more quiet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the threshold a heavy amount. I want you to listen to this quiet portion here and then this loud portion here. Hear what it sounds like without the compressor.
If you cry,
It's a pretty big jump. Now with the compressor,
if you cry.
it sounds almost the same volume all around, and that's exactly what you're going for with the compressor.
Wow.
Kind of an interesting way of like breaking that whole thing down. I'm like,
That's an awesome way, because compression is one of those things where it's very important to know and understand compression, but it's also one of the hardest things to understand about mixing in general.
Yeah.
It's the last thing that I learned in mixing.
for sure.
EQing is pretty self-explanatory. You're dealing with frequencies, you boost, you
you
cut.
can hear it wicked.
You can hear
quickly,
it. Yeah, you can hear it right away what you're doing. With compression, unless you have a visual like the Fruity Limiter, that's what really taught me. The way he's explaining it is
Yeah.
really dope for people that can't understand
Yeah.
compression. That's fire to me.
Right,